Dear students, welcome to the second session on I Sit and Sue, a poem written by Alice Dunbar Nelson. Well, let's quickly recap what we learned in the last session. Right? In the last session, we discussed about the author. So, who is this lady, and what did she do? What was her profession, and what kind of life that she led? And we also found meaning for a few words, right? So we had a glossary. We tried to get meaning for a couple of words. Then we try to know the background to the poem. So with what background the poem has been written by the poet. And at the end, we try to analyze the first stanza of the poem. You know that this is a poem of 3 stanzas. Each stanza has 7 lines, and we try to get the meaning of the first stanza. And when we analyzed it, we came to know that the stanza is all about a woman's anguish, a woman's helplessness, a woman's desires. Right? So this is what we saw in the last session. Now let's move on to the second stanza. Okay, let's read the lines. I sit and sue, my heart aches with desire. That pageant terrible, that fiercely pouring fire on wasted fields, and wreathing grotesque things once men. My soul in pity flings, appealing cries, yearning only to go there in that holocaust of hell, those fields of woe. But I must sit and sue. Right? So let's quickly read once again. I sit and sue, my heart aches with desire. That pageant terrible, that fiercely pouring fire on wasted fields, and wreathing grotesque things once men. My soul in pity flings, appealing cries, yearning only to go there in that holocaust of hell, those fields of woe. But I must sit and sue. Right? Once again, the anguish of the poet, not exactly the poet, the speaker is continued here. Once again, what she wants to do, right? So things like this are continued in the second stanza. If you try to get the meaning, the speaker is still sad that she does a mundane job. Right? If you get the overall meaning of the stanza, you can see that the speaker still doesn't like her job, and it appears to be a dull, mundane job for her. And she thinks of the war field, which is filled with scenes of destruction. Right? So when she thinks carefully, and she imagines the war field, she can see that it is filled with scenes of complete destruction. And she can also see their disfigured human bodies. Some are dead bodies and some are wounded bodies of those soldiers, helpless soldiers, hapless soldiers. And the pageant, the scenery is not worth watching or even imagining. It is such devastating. It is such horrific that she doesn't even want to imagine, right? So these are the general ideas that are described in the second stanza. If you go line by line, so you can see, I sit and sue, my heart aches with desire, right? Now she's doing the job of sewing, but still her heart is wrenching, right? So her heart is in pain with the desire. So she's in a restlessness condition. She wants to go to the war field. She wants to help those helpless soldiers. She wants to contribute to the very act of war. She wants to do something better than what she's doing now. Right? You can see that pageant terrible. Her heart is very sad. She is unhappy because when she imagines the war field, when she tries to look at the war field, that pageant is usually a beautiful sight. But here, the pageant appears to be very, very terrible. It is very, very, devastating. It is not a happy scene to look at. It invokes a kind of, pity, a fear in the onlooker, right? So because it is terrible, that fiercely pouring fire on the war front, there is fire everywhere, right? There is destruction everywhere. It's a terrible sight to see, and this fire is spread on wasted fields, right? So people are waging, wars. They are fighting with each other for different purposes, and the war field, is filled with a lot of fire, destruction, and wreathing grotesque things once men. And she can visualize, bodies of men who are wreathing in pain, and there are bodies which are completely disfigured, which cannot be identified, which once upon a time were people or men, but today they are not even recognizable. Their bodies are, they are not in perfect shape, right? They are, burned. They are completely filled with blood. So you cannot even recognize that the body is of a person. It is completely disfigured. It is completely probably disjointed, right? So maybe the body parts are spread across the war fields. So you can't even imagine. And when she visualizes that kind of a sight, my soul in pity flings. So she directly wants to go to the war field. Her emotions are attached with those, helpless soldiers. Her emotions are there with appealing cries. Her soul is there with, the soldiers who are appealing for help, or crying for help, or crying for assistance. And her soul yearns only to go there in that holocaust of hell. And her heart, which is humane, right? She wants to, she yearns to go in the midst of that holocaust of hell. Obviously, Warfield cannot be compared with, heaven. There cannot be any beautiful thing, any beautiful sight. So it's a holocaust of hell. There is completely, the whole field is filled with dead bodies, wounded bodies, crying bodies, right? So the sound is also not, melodious to one's ears. So everywhere there are cries of pain, right? Sadness, unhappiness. So it's in a sense, it is a hell on earth, right? It's a holocaust of hell. So if people have died, they have not died in, tens or hundreds. Thousands of dead bodies are scattered all over the war field, and that's why it is called a holocaust. It is compared to hell, those fields of woe. She wants to visit, the fields of woe. Woe here is sadness, because there are only sad tales to be told on those war fields. Everyone is, unhappy. The people who are related to those dead bodies, the people who are related to those wounded bodies, obviously, if you go and ask them, they can only narrate tales of sadness, right? So the fields are, they're filled with tales of sadness. But I must sit and sue. But this lady has to sit here at home and she must sue. That's why she has problems. So when people are fighting there, when people are in problems there, why should I be here at home sitting and doing an insignificant job. So should I sit and sew? So she questions herself again and again, right? This is the meaning of the second stanza, right? If we quickly go through the meaning, the speaker feels pity for those soldiers, as I told you. The terrible war has devastated lives of people, right? She wishes to help those in trouble. The war front has become hell of holes, but she is tied inside a house. She is unable to go. So once again, her helplessness condition is explained in the stanza. She wishes to go and help those people, but she is unable to do so. She is restricted within the four walls of a house. Right? Now let's come to the final stanza. Last stanza, third stanza of the poem. The little useless seam, the idle patch, why dream I here beneath my homely thatch? When they lie in sodden mud and rain, pitifully calling me, the quick ones and the slain. You need me, Christ. 'Tis no roseate rain that beckons me, this pretty futile seam. It stifles me, God. Must I sit and sew? The little useless seam, the idle patch, right? So these are the words related to the cloth, the act of sewing. Why dream I here beneath my homely thatch, when there they lie in sodden mud and rain. So they refer to soldiers. Pitifully calling me, the quick ones and the slain. You need me, Christ. Now she takes the name of the God. You need me, Christ. It is no roseate dream that beckons me. This pretty futile seam, it stifles me, God. Must I sit and sew? Well, if you try to get the meaning, the general meaning that is explained here, I can see that the speaker is bored of her sewing work. She's not interested once again. She's tired of the stitches or the cloth itself. When soldiers are busy fighting in extreme weathers, she can't sit idly doing an insignificant job. She thinks that she is dreaming inside her house and better duties need her. Please omit the A in the third point. She can't sit idly doing an insignificant job. A is not needed there. It's a mistake. And she can see that soldiers are calling her for help. She requests God to help her in serving a great cause. She knows very well that the war field is not a rose garden. Not beautiful things are there on the war field. But she is ready to take risks. The petty job stifles her. She questions God whether she should sit and sew in the end. Right? So she questions even God. Okay, let's try to go back to the stanza and try to look at the lines. We shall try to get the meaning line by line. The little useless seam, the idle patch. As I told you, this seam is stitches. This useless seam, the idle patch. So these are related to the act of sewing. The space on the cloth, the stitches on the cloth. So why should I be doing this kind of a silly job? Why dream I here beneath my homely thatch? So you know that she, while doing this act of sewing, her mind goes to the war field, but she asks herself, why should I be dreaming here, sitting comfortably inside my home, doing this job? When there they lie in sodden mud and rain. When there means war field, they means soldiers. When soldiers there lie in sodden mud and rain. So now they are fighting in extreme weathers. They do not care for the extreme weathers, whether it is rain or shine. They must fight, right? So that's why she asks. So poor soldiers, they are fighting for their country. They are fighting in rain. They are fighting in sunshine. So, but they are pitifully calling me. So not only they are doing, they need help, they require help. Very sadly, they are calling me. Calling me means they're in need of help. They're in need of assistance. Who? The quick ones and the slain. All kind of people, right? So the young and the dead, right? So everyone require, everyone requires kind of help. So if there are dead bodies, they should be removed from the war field. So the young people who are wounded, so they are also in need of help. You need me, Christ. Oh, they need me, Christ. So she is appealing God. Oh God, please take me out of this home. Allow me to go into the war field. Allow me to help those people who are in need of help. Oh God, so please send me there. So it is no rosy dream. So she tells. So the dream that I am dreaming is not a rosy dream. The war field that I am visualizing, it is not a beautiful, rose garden. So that beckons me. It is beckoning me. It is calling me. It is inviting me. So what is inviting her? The war field. But that war field is filled with problems everywhere. Even if she goes, there's no guarantee that she comes back alive, right? But still, she wants to take that risk for the sake of people who are fighting for a cause. The people who belong to her own, her own probably nation, country, or area, whatever. But they are in need of help, right? So they are fighting in extreme weathers. But what am I doing? This pretty a few times seen, right? But I am, involved in the act of stitching. It can also be, read as petty. It stifles me. The very act of, this stitching, this sewing, it stifles me. It leaves me breathless, right? So I cannot even breathe properly because I am in a kind of claustrophobic situation, right? So I cannot breathe easily because things that I visualize, they hold my breath. God, when this is the case, must I sit and sew? So she questions God. So when things are like this, should I sit and sew? Right? ಸೊ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳೇ, ಈ ಕೊನೆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟಾನ್ಸಾಗೆ ಬಂದರೆ ಆಕೆಯ ಒಂದು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ಲೆಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಕೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವುಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ, ಯುದ್ಧದ ಭೂಮಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಆಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋಂಥ ಕೆಲಸದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ಶಿ ಟೆಲ್ಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ಲೆಸ್ ಸೀನ್, ದ ಐಡಲ್ ಪ್ಯಾಚ್, ಆ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಏನು ಆಕೆ ತಗೊಂಡಿರೋ ಹೊಲಿಯಕ್ಕೆ, ಆ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋಂಥ ಹೊಲಿಗೆಗಳು, ಸೊ ಇವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ಆಕೆಗೆ ದೇ ಅಪಿಯರ್ ವೆರಿ ಯೂಸ್ಲೆಸ್. ಯಾವುದು ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪನೂ ಕೂಡ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಬರುವಂತಹದ್ದು ಅಂತ ಆಕೆಗೆ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಆಕೆ ಕನಸು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾವ್ದ್ರ ಕನಸನ್ನ? ಯುದ್ಧ ಭೂಮಿಯ ಕನಸನ್ನ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಆಕೆ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಇಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಈ ಮನೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇದ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನು ಆ ಕನಸನ್ನ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಲ್ಲ, ಆರಾಮಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನು ಮನೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಆರಾಮಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಮಳೆ ಬಂದ್ರು ನಾನು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ತೀನಿ, ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬಿಸಿಲಿದ್ರು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ತೀನಿ. ಬಟ್ ವೆನ್ ದೇ ಲೈ ಇನ್ ಸಾರ್ಡನ್ ಮಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರೈನ್, ಆದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಪಾಪ ಆ ಸೋಲ್ಜರ್ಸ್ಗಳು, ಆ ಒಂದು ಸೈನಿಕರು, ಅವರು ಬಿದ್ದಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನೆಲದ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಿದ್ದಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮಣ್ಣು ಎಲ್ಲ ಒದ್ದೆ ಆಗೋಗಿದೆ, ಮಳೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಅಂತಹ ಮಳೆಯಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವರು ತಮ್ಮ ಜೀವವನ್ನ ಪಣಕ್ಕೆ ಇಟ್ಟುಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋರಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲದೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸಹ ಸುಲಭ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಕರೀತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು, ಪಿಟಿಫುಲಿ ಕಾಲಿಂಗ್ ಮೀ. ಅವರು ಬಹಳ ನೊಂದುಕೊಂಡು ಬೇಜಾರಿಂದ ನನ್ನಂತಹವರ ಸಹಾಯವನ್ನ ಬೇಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಸತ್ತು ಹೋಗಿರುವಂಥವ್ರು, ಸಾಯ್ತಾ ಇರೋಂಥವ್ರು, ನೋವನ್ನು ಅನುಭವಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥವ್ರು, ಗಾಯಗೊಂಡಿರುವಂಥವ್ರು, ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಯುದ್ಧ ಭೂಮಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಕರೀತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನಂತಹರನ್ನ, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರೋರನ್ನ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಸಹಾಯ ಬೇಕು. ಯು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಅಂತ, ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಮೀ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ಟ್, ಅವರಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಸಹಾಯ ಬೇಕು. ಓ ದೇವ್ರೇ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ರೋಸಿ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ ದಟ್ ಬೆಕನ್ಸ್ ಮೀ. ಆಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಯುದ್ಧ ಭೂಮಿ ಅನ್ನೋವಂಥದ್ದು ಸುಲಭದ ಒಂದು ವಸ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲ, ವಿಷಯ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಆಕೆಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ತಾನು ಬದುಕಿ ಬರುವಂತಹ ಯಾವ ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಆ ಯುದ್ಧ ಭೂಮಿ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಸುಂದರವಾದ ಕನಸಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಆಕೆಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು. ಬೇಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕರೆಯುವಂತಹದ್ದು ಅಂತ. ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಕರಿತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹದ್ದು ಸುಂದರವಾಗಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಕನಸಲ್ಲ, ವಿಷಯ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಆಕೆಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು. ಆದ್ರೆ ದಿಸ್ ಪೆಟಿ ಅಂತ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು, ಫ್ಯೂಟೈಲ್ ಸೀಮ್ ಇಟ್ ಸ್ಟಿಫಲ್ಸ್ ಮೀ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸುಂದರವಾಗಿರುವಂತ ಹೊಲಿಗೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನಿದೆ, ಇದು ನನಗೆ ಉಸಿರುಗಟ್ಟಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನಿದೆ, ಇದು ನನ್ನ ಉಸಿರುಗಟ್ಟಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ನನಗೆ ಉಸಿರಾಡಕ್ ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ದೇವ್ರೆ, ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಐ ಸಿಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸ್ಯೂ. ಇಂತಹ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೊಲಿಗೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ? ನನ್ನ ಜನ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋರಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ನರಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸಾಯ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ನೋವನ್ನ ಅನುಭವಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ತರದ ವಾತಾವರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಯುದ್ಧ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಕಂಫರ್ಟಬಲ್ ಆಗಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮನೆಯ ನೆರಳಲ್ಲಿ, ಮನೆಯ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇಂಥ ಚಿಕ್ಕದಾಗಿರುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕ ದೇವ್ರೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಕೆ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ನನ್ನ ಕೈಲಾದಷ್ಟು ಸಹಾಯವನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡಾದ್ರೂ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಗಂಡಸರೇ ಆತಕ್ಕೆ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ತಗೋಬೇಕು. ನನಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಿಸಿದ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳು ಯಾಕೆ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ತಗೋಬೇಕು? ಈ ದೇಶ ನನಗೂ ಸೇರಿರುವಂತಹದ್ದು, ಅವರು ಹೋರಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತ ಕಾರಣಗಳು ನನಗೂ ಸೇರಿರುವಂತಹದ್ದು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನನ್ನನ್ನೇ ಯಾಕೆ ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋಂಥ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಯಾಕೆ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ. ದೇವರಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ, ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ತರದ ಜೀವನ ನಾನು ನಡೆಸಬೇಕು? ರೈಟ್. ಸೊ ಓ ದೇವ್ರೆ, ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡು, ನಾನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಸಹಾಯವನ್ನು ನನ್ನವರಿಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ. ರೈಟ್. ಸೊ ಇಂತಹ ಯೋಚನೆಗಳ ಪದ್ಯ ಮುಕ್ತಾಯಗೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. If you quickly recap, so we can see that the speaker visualizes the war front that is hell-like. Obviously, no war field can be heaven-like. It is hell-like. So she visualizes that war front. And when she visualizes, she can listen to the hapless or helpless soldiers' voices calling for help. So everywhere, soldiers are crying for help on the war field. So people are in distress, they are in trouble, so they are in wounded condition. So they are crying for help. They may not get enough food, they may not get enough rest, so they may not get proper things. So they are in need of help. They're crying for help. So people are fighting on the war field of hell. So the whole war field appears like a hell, and people are struggling there. But she is comfortably sitting under the roof of her house. But this lady, sitting inside the house, she is sewing. So she questions God. Why is she doing this petty job, a useless job, when people are, doing significant jobs? When men are in the war field, why should I be here? So she questions herself. She questions God also. Right? With these things, the poem ends. Right? So if you take the overall gist of the poem, you can see that a lady is there, sewing inside, sitting inside her house. But she knows that there is a war going on, and her mind goes to that war field. So where she sees people fighting their enemies valiantly, bravely, facing all kinds of oddities, facing all kinds of problems. So there are many deaths, there are many wounded people, and there is constant cry for help. But she cannot go there being a woman. She cannot help them being a woman. She is not allowed to fight in the war being a woman. So her state of being a woman troubles her. Her state of being in a helpless condition traumatizes her. So she questions again and again, why should I be doing this when people are doing something worthy? Right? So this is the poem. I hope you understood the poem. Feel free to ask questions to the concerned teachers if you do not understand at any point of time any line, any word for that matter. Thank you.